Stop waiting for motivation. Seriously. Welcome to this explainer where we're going to go ahead and skip the usual pleasantries today. We are jumping right into a massive wake-up call to unpack the unfiltered truth about why people actually fail to achieve their goals. Let's get into it. Okay, let's dive into this. There's a quote that gets right to the core of the issue. They are failing because they keep negotiating with themselves. You see, most people love to blame their circumstances, right? The city they live in, the economy, or just a lack of innate talent. But the real danger? That happens internally. When the alarm goes off at 5 a.m. or when that tough work is sitting right there staring them in the face, they just disappear. They start a mental negotiation. Well, this explainer is all about ending that negotiation today. The difference between ordinary people and truly unstoppable people is actually surprisingly simple. Ordinary people wait to feel ready. They literally sit around waiting for inspiration to strike or for the stars to perfectly align just to do something as basic as folding their laundry or starting a new project. But unstoppable people, they move before they feel ready. They don't rely on the feeling. And I'm telling you, that single behavioral shift changes absolutely everything. Now, let's look at how this negotiation actually plays out in our heads on a daily basis. We have all heard this exact phrase echo in our minds. Tomorrow I'll start. It is our favorite, most familiar excuse, isn't it? It feels so safe, almost like we're still committed. We're just delaying it a tiny bit. And then, oh man, then there's this one. You deserve a break. Notice how comforting that voice sounds in the moment. It's incredibly sneaky because it validates our laziness by beautifully disguising it as self-care. It whispers that skipping just today won't really matter in the grand scheme of things. Finally, we hit the ultimate trap. You'll do it later. But here is the harsh reality. The very moment you listen to that voice, your future starts collapsing in slow motion. Sure, every excuse feels so small, so completely insignificant in the moment. But repeated small excuses eventually compound into a totally destroyed, unfulfilled life. Nothing changes if we keep relying on these comforting delays instead of taking action. Let's shift gears and look at the actual mechanics of why relying on feelings is such a trap. Biologically speaking, motivation is tied to fleeting spikes of dopamine. It's exactly like a firework. It creates this sudden, flashy burst of excitement, but it fades incredibly fast. Discipline, on the other hand? Discipline is the trowel and the brick. It creates actual, predictable results. You see, discipline isn't a feeling at all. It is a firm decision. The person who keeps showing up, regardless of how they feel that day, entirely bypasses that need for a dopamine hit and becomes incredibly dangerous. So, the crucial point is this. Your real battle is not against the world. It's not against your competitors, your boss, or your life circumstances. The real battle is against yourself. It's against the version of you that desperately craves comfort over the heavy lifting. It is against the version of you that wants excuses over execution. Transforming your life requires basically declaring an all-out war on that comfortable version of yourself. And this brings us to a fascinating paradox. People want massive, life-altering success, right? But they try to achieve it while secretly holding on to these small, average, easy habits. Listen, that never works. Your life will always perfectly mirror your baseline standards. If your standard is inconsistency and making excuses, your life becomes completely average, kind of like a dying houseplant you just forgot to water. But if you raise that standard to discipline, your life changes permanently. Now, here is the secret weapon of the unstoppable. A weak person talks endlessly about their goals, but a dangerous person, they build systems. You see, goals rely heavily on your emotions, and let's be honest, your feelings will absolutely fail you on a cold, rainy Tuesday morning, but systems create predictable outcomes. You absolutely must pivot away from fragile emotions and start relying on bulletproof systems. So how do we actually build these systems? Well, you stop relying on willpower and you start engineering behaviors. First, remove distractions. Literally put the phone in another room. Change your environment so doing the right thing is actually the path of least resistance. Fiercely protect your focus and train your mind to execute even when it's totally boring or when progress feels agonizingly slow. By doing this, you're creating an environment that forces execution, entirely eliminating the need for motivation in the first place. Your future is built in the invisible moments. Now, this is the truth nobody really wants to hear. Real transformation isn't an overnight breakthrough or some dramatic movie montage moment caught on camera. It is the early mornings, it's the lonely work, and it's the endless repetitions that absolutely nobody applauds. And this brilliantly illustrates why so many people quit way too early. Think about a seed planted deep underground. For the first month, the third month, maybe even longer, nothing appears to happen. But then, suddenly everything changes. Growth is entirely invisible before it becomes obvious. Misunderstanding this is why people fail. Slow progress is still progress. Every single day you continue, you are becoming fundamentally stronger beneath the surface. Which leads us to the ultimate separator. Anyone, literally anyone, can work hard when they feel motivated, pumped up, and excited. But champions work hard when they feel entirely empty. The days you continue even when you feel absolutely nothing, especially those days, that is where true separation from the pack happens. That is how powerful people are built, brick by brick. Let's move to and see how this builds into ultimate freedom. Because the path isn't some massive, impossible leap, it's a quiet daily reality. Step 1, you make one better choice daily. Just one extra rep, one more hour, one more attempt. Step 2, eventually something incredible happens. Discipline simply takes over. You actually stop asking yourself, do I feel like doing this today? You just do it. And step 3, your emotions no longer control your actions. When you reach that point, you are completely free from needing motivation. That is true freedom. So make a decision right now, today, to stop waiting. Stop waiting for the perfect moment. I promise you it doesn't exist. Stop waiting to feel confident. Confidence is built strictly through taking action. Stop waiting for motivation. It will always abandon you when you need it most. And please, stop waiting for life to become easier. It will not. You simply have to become stronger. The people who change their lives aren't superhuman. They just learn to keep going when it's hard, repetitive, and exhausting. Because here is the ultimate payoff. Effort compounds. Discipline compounds. Consistency compounds. Every single day matters. Every choice matters. Every little promise you keep to yourself absolutely matters. When you stack these days, one after the other, eventually life has no choice but to reward you. When people finally see your results, they're going to call you talented. They won't see the years of invisible repetition, but you will know the truth. You built it, choice by choice. So the question isn't whether or not you can succeed. The real question is, can you stay consistent long enough to become the person capable of holding on to that success? I really want you to think about that, because the moment you master consistency, your entire world changes. Thank you for joining me for this explainer. The negotiation is over. Now, go execute.